Hello everyone and welcome to the Audio Foundry. I'm Lanson. Today we're going to work on a little experiment here as soon as that mower stops mowing. Does subwoofer placement matter in a vehicle? This is a 12-inch Eton subwoofer and it's a ported box, so slot port, and it is an original Eton design. Part of the experiment is, does this placed in different locations affect the acoustics that you can hear when you're in the seat, in the driver's seat specifically? I know it does, but I wanted to show you exactly how it matters and what the differences are. So what we're going to do is put this subwoofer back here and then close to the edge here, and then maybe a downfire, maybe an upfire. We'll find a few different ways that this will orient itself. And then you'll be able to see by way of measurement exactly what kind of difference in the response you'll get. The test subject is this Acura that I've been working on. And this is the temporary amp enclosure, which is a little messy, but functional. So we have a 500 watt rainbow sub amp, Goldhorn DSPA 810 Pro. And then unrelated to this today will be a rainbow 4-channel mini amplifier. The Goldhorn will be connected to my computer and we'll be able to send and receive signals to it. We're going to keep everything constant. We're just going to use a sweep sound, a sweep from low to where the subwoofer cuts off, and measure the response. So let's go get our laptop. Okay. First placement will be up against here to this corner. So let me do that now. There it is, up against the corner. And let's call it like 2 feet plus from the tailgate. Time to measure. So we're in the car. Everything's off except the car itself. It's not running. That's an important point. We don't want engine noise to affect this measurement. I'm also going to pay attention to what's happening outside of the car, because if I hear like a loud truck drive by or something like that, I'm going to scrap the run. So I've got an aux in that goes to a dongle. It's a USB dongle to the laptop, which we'll flip around here in just a sec. What we're going to do is pick this here for source. And aux in should do it. Now, hey, if you're this company, Eonon, make a correction to your spelling there. All right, so now I'm going to feed at a constant signal, say 20. Okay, so, and I've shown this in video before, but we need to get into preferences, output device, connect to the dongle, which is going to run at 48 kilohertz. It's capable of 384. This is helpful, by the way. These dongles are helpful because laptops are inherently noisy, and this helps a ton. Our input will be the UMIC, and we're going to confirm our cal file is in place for a 90-degree file. Okay, so what I'm going to first do is do a check level, just to see if I hear anything. Okay, good. We're going to load the Goldhorn software and we're going to mute all the channels except the subwoofer. This way they don't get affected. Okay, Goldhorn connected. Now let me show you what I'm looking at here. I'll run a screen capture so this will be a little bit easier. This is the tune that I have for the subwoofer, and it's just cuts. And that's, of course, to help with the cabin gain. But what I'm going to do for the sake of this is load a flat signal and then save it. So we're going to bypass and save it. Test. What is today? 4/11. Okay, so in this test, we're going to set the frequency up to about 150 on a 24 decibel slope. And all manner of low frequency filters are off. And we're just going to run this one channel. So I'm going to mute all the rest. There we go. So channel I. And then I'm just going to run a sound check. Measure, check levels. I'm not hearing anything because the frequencies are too low. So we'll go 10 to 200. Should be able to hear this. Holy moly. All right. Might need to bring things down just a touch. Okay. I've got the head unit up. Man, that is, yeah. That was loud. It's funny. All right. Let's just take this down to minus 30. Testing. Oh, yeah. Okay, so next up we're going to do a sweep. And this will be subwoofer position 1. And behind second row. I'm doing this one-handed, so forgive me. There we go. All right, 10 to 200. Okay, so here I am in the seating position. I'm just going to put the microphone right here because this is bass we're talking about, and it's unimportant that the microphone, be moving around during this because it's subwoofer frequencies. So here we go. I'm going to hold this while also doing this, so this should be cool. And it went right off the chart. Let me get that. Okay. And because we're going to make sure we have a repeatable science here, I'm going to run the exact same measurement again. This be same position 1 and start. Very good. So it's a little bit different here. I did nothing different overall, so that's probably the amount of variance that we're going to have just by the nature of this cabin and the nature of where we're outside. We'll do it one more time because 3 is better than 2. There we are. All right. Next up, we're going to modify. We're going to leave everything else running. Everything's good here. And we're just going to modify only the subwoofer placement. So we're going to gently put the mic down. Make sure we're not tripping over a cord. So the subwoofer placement was here in the far back. Now I'm going to bring it up here, closer to where the third row would be. Here we are. Subwoofer is now, where'd my tape measure go? Subwoofer is now like 6 inches from the tailgate. And now let's hear how the difference in sound measures. All right. It's super duper important that we change no other variable. So I'm not going to tweak any other setting. I'm just going to pick up my microphone and let that car pass and run this measurement here. Let me just label this real quick. Subwoofer position 2. This will be 6 inch from tailgate. And I think I can show it. It's right back there. Okay. There's a loud diesel. We're going to wait for it in the park. Okay. Orange is the one that just occurred. See this right here? This is what we gained by putting that subwoofer closer to the back. Now let's fire it off 2 more times and prove this. We'll call this A. Good. And one more time. Call it B. I'll probably have to just readjust them afterwards, but all good. So, next up, we're going to do another position and show you the differences there. Okay, new position. Back up against the wall as far as I can get it. And here. Now, in a perfect world, I would submit that it would be better back here. And that's actually one of my plans if we decide to keep this vehicle long term. I'll build an enclosure that kind of takes this space here. But for testing, one variable change is all we want. And once again, we're just going to measure. We'll call this position 3 and up against passenger rear corner facing in. Sub position 3. There's an aircraft overhead, so this might change a little bit. I'm going to wait for that aircraft to fly over. It actually sounds like a jet. So we're going to measure that 2 more times and just make sure it wasn't a fluke, but you can see that there's a slightly different response right here and a peak here. Not a big deal though. Okay. The good news is it's tracing very close. And we'll get it one more time. I'm a fan of synchronicity numbers. What do you think about that? Woo! Guess that means we were meant to do this, huh? Anyway. 3B, if you will. What this tells us is that none of these are really that bad. But if we were looking for a little bit more in the way of mid-bass, having that towards the back would be good. But I've measured trucks with huge holes in response, not at 100 hertz, but like 65, 70. And these are not places that you want a cancellation node to occur at all. So it's important to do this, but it's also important to remember that it's different for any vehicle. So this vehicle seems to be tolerant of subwoofer placement, subwoofer location. We're going to experiment one with a downfire here in just a second. And maybe let's do upfire first because it'll be easier just to flop it over. Downfire, I'm going to have to build like some sort of spacer. And then I got another aircraft flying overhead, so that's going to be fun. All right, so let's move this guy upright. Okay, so subwoofer is now facing up towards the top. Let's see how this sounds. Let's do a measurement with that facing up. We'll call it position 4. Face up corner. Check for background noise. Yeah, see, there's some birds chirping, but it won't matter because we're not measuring those frequencies. Okay, let's roll. That felt different. I think the cabin gain changed dramatically. Yeah, it did. Purple plot right there. I know it's all getting a little jumbled up. We'll zoom in here in just a... Actually, you know what? Let's zoom way in. Okay. Maybe we'll come out a little bit. Good enough. All right, so the last plot we plotted, it still felt different though. Yeah, this right here is not an insignificant difference. All right, let's measure that again just to make sure it wasn't a fluke. Again, position 4. Yeah, it definitely sounds less potent. Yeah, it's drawing about the same. Let's do it one more time. And there we go. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show like the worst possible position. This is my opinion, but let's prove it. And that is firing forward. firing forward against the back seat. Okay, so now got the subwoofer. It's in a space conscious position, but it's firing up against the seat. Now the seat itself won't do much for bass blocking, but what I predict is going to happen is that the distance from here to here, let's go get a tape measure. The distance is about 41, 42 inches from the back wall. Now, here's the deal. We'll prove it. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But generally speaking, when you put the subwoofer like in the middle of the vehicle, there's a great chance for cancellation because of this. Because the waves coming off the subwoofer are kind of interacting with themselves, but in different time, which creates cancellation. But let's call this position 5. And up against seat forward. All right, let's find out. Make sure there's no noises. It's good. See this? Now it actually produces a boost here. But yeah, that drop was audibly weak. So I'm going to do it again. And one more time. Okay. You can see this dip. It's pretty substantial all the way through. And then at like 80 hertz or so, it starts to finally recover. This dip is why I have pushed people on audio forums for as long as I've been able to figure this out. The placement of your subwoofer matters a great deal. And it probably could be said that in some ways, it actually matters more placement than the actual subwoofers in the enclosure. So let's take a look and change this. Okay, so this is a test for downfire. I've put pool noodle foam or what do you call that stuff? Like pipe foam up against the grill. Let's go. And the vent for the subwoofer is back here, so I've moved it out here. But yeah, there's about a, inch downfire. Let's try that. Once again, we changed nothing except that one variable. All right, let's check for listening. There's a dog barking, and that would screw it up. It's gone now. We'll call this position 6. Downfire. Corner. Interesting sound. Starting to get a little bit messy. Let me hide all but yeah, there we go. Okay. So it looks like it's like the middle ground, especially, yeah. Interesting. Let's do 2 more just because that's the right way to do it. Okay, 2 more of the same. It's a smoother bass than I have. Again, this is not EQ'd, so this is smoother bass response than I have pre-EQ on my. There we go. Smoother bass response than we have pre-EQ on my system now, and that's interesting. So yeah, let's put them all back in and just use the highlighter here. These are all 1/48 smooth. We can adjust that later. There you go. So downfire is kind of like a compromise. Forward fire is awful. Rear fire towards the trunk at the closest position. And yeah, that's not surprising. So hey, it's Lanson back in the studio. Let's see what this looks like in higher res. So thought what I would do is take each position and average them together to simplify this graph. So we're going to do that now. I'm just going to go ahead and uncheck all these real quick. And we're going to take all the position ones and average them into 1. And then we're going to name this position 1, which was rear fire behind seat. Okay, so we're going to take 1, 2, and 3 out. All right, so there we go. Now we will just take the averages and let's color code just a little bit more. So front against the seat, go red because it's a bad idea. So just to analyze what's all going on here, I've taken the SPL meter here and I've set it so we have a maximal amount of resolution where this is 5 decibels of movement. So just to analyze this, first thing I'll point out is that this subwoofer that I've got, it's a pre-built box. And in my Lexus, I was going to install this, but I decided to go with an infinite baffle design. And I use these subwoofers, 2 of these same that are in the box. But my bass response is substantially lower than what we see here. So what it tells me is that these ported boxes that come with these subs are optimized for maximum boom around 35 to 40. My cabin gain in the MDX is probably in the 40 peak right here, 39, 40 peak. This peak of 50 is, I don't know, maybe just a secondary boost. But it goes against the response that I want to deliver in this car. I want to instead have a much lower response. So what that tells me is eventually this subwoofer enclosure will be replaced with probably a ported or passive radiator design. yet to be determined. But we'll do that for another video. My worst case scenario was a front fire, right? Right there. And here's how bad the difference is. So at 40 hertz, I'm at, let's say, about 104 decibels here versus our best position, position 2, which at 40 hertz was about 107 versus 105. So it's about 2 decibels, almost 2.5 decibels difference, which is enough. That's almost like adding an extra subwoofer without extra power. And then if you look at, like, say, 45 hertz or 44 hertz, 40 at about 45 hertz, right about here, that difference went from 102 to 105.5 ish. So now you're talking about 3.5 decibels, again, just for a placement difference. And then likewise, if you take it, say, to 50 hertz or so, right about there. So you're at like 99 decibels versus, I'm trying to be as accurate as I can here, 106 and a half, something like that. So that is a massive difference. And then let's just finish this off. Remember, I had this whole design, this whole test was done. Remember, I had this whole test done without crossovers running, like at the regular 80 hertz crossover point. So all of this right here is present, but it would normally just cross out. But look here. So at, say, 63 hertz, which is still definitely in the bass region, the door speakers aren't taking this over. Now the response is 86 decibels to what we found out here was, I guess, the best at position 3. Oh, position 2 still. Yeah, right by the tailgate. This one, so at 60, we're at 100 decibels versus 89 decibels. All right. So right there, you're looking at 11 decibels difference, and every 10 decibels is a perceived doubling in volume, or halving, if you go the other way. I have literally, at 60 hertz, half the performance, half the overall volume. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now that you can see this for yourself, do the measurements. You don't need a calibrated mic. It does help, but because you're looking at differences, as long as your mic doesn't distort, doesn't have some sort of distortion issue at these measurements and tests, you can use almost any mic that can connect to RU. And then if there is a miscalibration, it will be equal from measurement to measurement. So it won't matter. Now, having a non-calibrated mic does matter if you're trying to get that last bit of performance out. So eventually I do recommend spending $80 and buying a U mic. But for at least proving the best position for your subwoofer enclosure, you don't have to do anything except just plug in a mic and measure. And if you can't do it in RU, you can take, say, at 40 hertz, 50 hertz, 60 hertz, you can take pink noise or a test tone with an application on your phone and measure the SPL and then record it and then make your own graph. So there really is no reason to not do this, especially if you're trying to get the most for your equipment and you have flexibility in placement. That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for watching. If you're feeling generous and want to help out the channel, I did set up a Ko-fi link in the description. And if you want to help me break through the YouTube algorithms, be sure to comment, like, subscribe, all the things that'll help me grow. Thanks for joining me on the Audio Foundry. Take care.